Hello warriors, Bebe here from the Warrior Enclave, Authenticity Warrior, and I would like to specially welcome you to the corner. I'm sure you can see from the description of this episode that today's video is a tough one. To be honest, I'm already very triggered. So I'm sure you can tell why my energy is a little wonky, but I made a commitment to shatter my silence, to speak about my story, because at the end of the day, it's very important to me to do so. And it's important to me to carry people along on this journey. Who knows who can be helped? But most importantly, it's helping me. And I'm very happy to be here. And so we'll just get right into it. As usual, we know that on the corner episodes, we have my sister here asking questions, guiding me through the telling of my story. So she's going to be here anchoring this session. So say hi to the people, Toro.
Hi warriors, Toro here off camera, just facilitating the conversation. As you can tell from the title, content warning, trigger warning, things could get graphic, and so just be forewarned and be ready to take care of yourself.
Yes, so yeah, I certainly will have to do the same myself. Like, again, I can already feel my energy is very wonky. I'm literally on my last bar doing this video, so I certainly will be taking that advice, and I encourage you all to do the same in preparing before you listen to this episode, and to make sure you have your aftercare set up after listening to this episode, just in case you get triggered, just in case things come up for you that you were not expecting. So let's all be careful out here in these trauma streets. But before we get into the interview style of this episode, I feel it's important to me to clarify that the reason why this particular episode is important to me, and yes, guys, I know I say this all the time, every topic is always so important to me, but really and truly, this topic is important to me because I did not even know the lengths, the depths, and the entire breadth of the abuse I was chopping fully in this relationship until I really and truly began to just stop burying my head in the sand. And the things that came up were extremely painful, hurtful, and honestly, it took a while for me to shed the heavy burden of the shame that I had been carrying, shame that wasn't mine. And it's because of my conditioning. For those of you who know me personally, I was such a religious head. I was a church girl. I was very naive, very green. So there's so much I didn't even know about the politics of this space, of this sexual arena. And so I waded into the waters and I found myself in the deep end, nearly drowning. This topic is too important. So please, I encourage us, as uncomfortable as it may be, let's dig deep and let's get into it.
Okay, just in case we haven't actually articulated what the topic is, and the topic is spousal rape, in your case, in your marriage. And this is something that it's not even properly recognized worldwide legally as something that a victim of this could have recourse for. And here on this channel, we're here to establish and let the people know that it is something that is real. It's not the myth that it's purported to be. And so what is your attestation to this phenomenon of spousal rape?
It's real. It happens, and it is a fact, a simple fact of many marriages, many long-term relationships. It's it's a truth that many women have not been able to come to the final conclusion of, even though deep down somewhere inside them, they know that they too have been victims. But for myself, I know for a fact the moments and the times in which I was victimized in this very specific way. So I agree. Spousal rape is real. It is true. And I myself, unfortunately, have been a victim, and I was a victim of it for way too long.
Thank you for your affirmation and validation of that truth, of the fact that spousal rape is real and that it happens and that it is quite common. When people hear rape, they often think about the most graphically extreme form of it. But this is something that happens in subtle and nuanced ways all the time as well, even within relationships. And, it's one of the reasons why it goes so often unclocked. Whether it's something as small as, or seemingly small as, coercion, or pushing against your boundaries. So what are some of the more nuanced ways that you feel you were violated within your marriage sexually?
As you were speaking, again, I'm pinching myself because I'm really, really just trying to stay calm and grounded as I am walking myself through this very tricky minefield conversation. Because as you were speaking, for those of us who've unfortunately been victims, sometimes the imagery pops up, and you just have to remind yourself that you are safe now. For those of us who have been lucky to get out, you're safe now, you're no longer in danger, and to just calm your fights or flight responses. So, some of the more nuanced instances where I felt and I knew it within my spirit that I was being violated, but because it did not look like the rape scene that people generally like to describe rape to be, I found myself questioning my experience, questioning my feeling, questioning my radar, even sometimes shaming myself for feeling, but why do I keep feeling like this person is doing something to me? I don't like it. And for those of you who listened to the episode where I speak about, reclaiming my power in the sex arena, I speak about how to the point my body shut down. I even started to believe that, maybe I was on the asexuality spectrum. That's how much sex started to repulse me. That is how much I started to feel repulsed by sex. Because I knew something was going on here, but because I was so green, I couldn't put my finger on it. And, I was such a church girl, and you had been raised, you don't speak about your marriage, you don't. So to be honest, I felt like I didn't even have people to talk to ask, to confirm that, is this how things are supposed to be? So for me, the one that just keeps popping up is the fact that many an occasion when I was being intimate or sexual with this person, and they wouldn't look at me, look at my eyes, or process the non-verbal information that my body was communicating to them. At first I used to feel like, oh, are they so just taking up with the moment that they're ignoring my cues? They're ignoring me communicating that, okay, I'm kind of ready to stop now. I think we've gone at it for long enough now. My own pleasure isn't prioritized here. You've gotten yours multiple times. Is it not enough? But this person will purposely avoid my gaze. They wouldn't look at me. And when you've been so severely abused in so many different forms, you don't, especially when you're in that kind of vulnerable space, you don't now, you're fearful of the abuse again. So you won't want to be like, it's okay now, like we're done. Let's all, everybody's tired. Sometimes they would have woken you up from sleep and then they want to be having some protracted, long ass, sexual encounter. So you'll be trying to communicate, taking their very, very fragile ego into consideration that, hey, it's okay. Let's be wrapping up now kind of thing. And this guy will purposely avoid my gaze, avoid my cues, avoid everything that I'm trying to communicate. And this guy will get his over and over and over again. There was one particular day I had just had it. This guy had done how many rounds that night? I just had to, I didn't even know where I got the strength from, because I to the point where I had even stopped, I became stiff like a fish. Like I was just looking at him. My body wasn't even in motion at all. And this guy kept going. I didn't even know where the anger, I guess, or just the feeling of just the constant violation. I shoved this guy off me. And I just angrily stood up from the bed. I went to go do, aftercare that you have to do and all of that. And then I came back into the room and he just retorted to me that, why did I do that kind of thing now? Why am I doing as if he's raping me? And I was so irritated because I'm just like, dude, you knew that I've been done. I've been done for quite a while. You've gotten yours how many times? Is it not enough? Let's sleep, let's rest. It's okay. I am very busy. I still have a long laundry list of things that I know I have to get to. You're not helpful. There's nothing that you do to actually help me carry my burden in this family. In this arena too as well. My pleasure is not your concern. So is it not enough? Is it not enough? So again, things like that, where even in that moment, that's what, when I was processing everything, in that moment, even I still was not even at that point ready to even call what he was doing to me rape. I find it very, very curious that he used that word first. Because he knew what he was doing. Over the years, I had just learned to stop assuming that, oh, maybe he doesn't know. Because I'm like, I knew you've been avoiding my gaze all this while. You were purposely avoiding it. You were not just taking up in the moment of the emotions. No, you were avoiding it. And that's why it could come out of your mouth that, why am I doing as if you are raping me? Because that's exactly what you were doing. So, again, when I say that my entire sexual experience during the time when I was married, because that's when I became sexually active in marriage, the 5 years that I was there, when I describe my experience as mostly traumatic and painful and just really just very icky, I mean it. It's unfortunate that my biggest blessings in life came from those encounters. But to be honest, I still struggle. I still struggle to put those two together. I still struggle, and which is why, despite everything this guy actually put me through in the marriage that I was trapped in, despite all the abuse, it pains me that I still can't bring myself to say, I wish I never did. Because more than anything, the existence, the presence of my children in this world mean the most to me. So that's basically what abuse does to you. It intertwines some of your most precious things, it muddies the water so much, it can be very difficult to wade through it.
Yeah, that was a big share. And I just want to highlight what you said, a couple of things you said in there when you said, oh, this individual wasn't helpful with carrying your burden in the family. That's also a sign of abuse, the fact that you assume that the burden of the family is yours to bear. It was both of yours. And this individual was definitely not doing their share or pulling their weight adequately. Another thing with abusers and with abuse is that they tell on themselves by way of letting you know what they're going to do before they do it, or by way of admission when they are doing something or when they have done it. So when he made that statement, why are you acting like I'm raping you? That was an admission of guilt. It was an admission of what he was doing. And you know how they're always trying to warp and change reality. And so your rightful reaction to your violation, is holding the mirror up to him. And there he is already in gaslight and denial mode. So he knew what he was doing. He is an abuser and he's a rapist. And I'm just so sorry that you had to even be in that situation at all. So, I mean, that's one of those incidences that kind of crosses, that kind of like seems like it's in a gray area. There's still that deniability, so to speak. I know that on Authenticity Warrior, we talk about a very explicit incident of sexual violation, and this is on episode 8, I believe. And this it kind of starts from an erosion of boundaries. And by this, I'm referring to the anal incident. This is something you said you didn't want to do, and that he pushed and pushed and pushed and manipulated his way into finally doing it. And then while doing it, you very explicitly and clearly withdrew consent, which he ignored. And I'm just going to prompt you to talk about that. And you can start from the boundary issue, specific to that incident and also in other ways sexually.
It really had just been a running theme in a relationship where, because I was such a church girl, I was very green. And coming from the church, there are so many things that even the church I was attending had said, oh, you don't, even when you're married, that you're not supposed to do. Things like anal sex, even oral sex. The church I attended was against that. Like they did not condone that even in marriage. So I was coming from a place where there were so many restrictions. Now, I've always been a liberal person. And while as I, came into my womanhood, I'd become so religious that, there were some things that I too now then took in. But even I knew that, okay, now, if we're married now, how many things will I really say I'm not going to do with my husband, But the one thing that I knew that, okay, I will never do is anal. Aside from the religious aspect of it, from what I had heard outside is that it was extremely painful. So for me, I just did not want to tangle in that area because I, I just felt like I beg, like anything involving that level of pain, I don't want to participate in it. I think some of my girlfriends had said that even, sometimes when their own partners would almost try and like slip it in there through the back door and, they had to warn the guys seriously that don't ever in your life try that issue again. So for me, it just felt like a natural that it's even good. Me too, I don't even want to do it. So that one is completely off the table for me. Only for us to get married and Paulinus, which is what we call him on the podcast, began to push all manner and types of boundaries. And with the anal, it's something he already started to work on me from like the first year of our marriage. I was even ill most of the time because whenever I'm pregnant, I just get very sick. I literally log off in life. I don't want to participate in anything because I'm just fighting for my life, getting through this pregnancy. So, the times where to be sexual were not even, the opportunities were not even coming up so much, especially when I'm pregnant. But I just know that every single time is now time to get into, okay, well, let's have sex. He would manhandle my body in ways that, I wasn't prepared for or I hadn't consented to, and it began to then become obvious that, okay, my body is just a plaything here, it's just a toy. Like my pleasure is not important basically to this person. My body was just being used. Of course, he comes up with the whole, okay, anal law that I think he came home and he said, oh, his friends were discussing it and that, oh, they said that is very pleasurable and he wants to try it with me. And of course, outright, I just said, please, oh, I'm not going there. I hear is my own friends have said it's very painful and I don't want to go there at all. Of course, he got very angry, would start to berate me about it that, hey, I'm just a Bebe or I'm just a dry babe. For those of you who are Nigerian, you understand that slang that, hey, why is my own always too much? Why is he always begging me to do things that, well, like just already started to shame me, which rightfully so. I was a virgin when I got married. I personally expected a slow, natural progression, opening up to being sexual and, just moving through the levels. But I felt like I got married and this guy already wanted me to be some advanced level sexual being that was down and open for everything. For me, I felt we're going to be married for a lifetime. Like, let's move gently through this sex thing, right? So to him, he had seen my slow progression as an act of defiance to him. So that was a general complaint from him that, why am I always saying no? Why don't I ever want to try this? Why don't I ever want to blah, blah, blah? So I then started to internalize a lot of shame that, maybe I'm the one that is doing something wrong, I mean, we're married. Me too. Why don't I want to do some of these things? But it really was just a fact that this guy was just not patient with me, was not patient with my body. For those of you who know, I struggled with vaginismus too. So I would say I was a very this slow learner, if you will, in this area. So of course, when he brought the anal to my table, it wasn't something that I was enthusiastic about. It's not something I wanted to be doing already in the first year of our marriage. Like, if we're doing anal now, I'm afraid for what 10 years looks like. That's what I was thinking in my head. Of course, he would never let that bone go. He will always pick at that at every opportunity he could get. One day he will come and say his friends were talking about it. Let's do it. I'll say no. At some point he will threaten that, well, if I say I'm not going to do these things, then I shouldn't I can't talk if he decides to go and do these things outside. And I will have to promptly remind him that, look, you're free to do anything you want to do with your body. But as for me, if I find out that you're doing anything outside, I would certainly make decisions for myself. He will go again, he will come back. That's of course, again, the shaming. Why you just such a dry babe? Why you just such a baby? Blah, blah, blah. This thing had been going on for years in one way, shape, or form, where he would try and manipulate me into taking that step with him. Eventually, what then happened was either it was like a special occasion, I don't even know, maybe an anniversary, maybe birthday, I don't even remember, but I just remember that he had primed me that day. Everything had been sweet and smooth. It was like it felt like the good old days when we were dating. There was no fight. There was no anybody shouting at me to do anything. There was no anybody berating me that day. It's just in retrospect that I'm realizing that, oh my God, this guy worked on me all day to get me to the point he wanted to get me. So by the time it was night, he made his request. This time he made his request in the most humble way I'd ever heard him be. I'd never seen him that humble before. You know how some men even like to do as if they want to cry sometimes when they're asking for things. He was like, please now, that he has been begging me, that please now, let's just do this thing, that he'll be very gentle, he will take his time, he will not, all of that. And so me just feeling all this guilt that, gosh, if I now say no now, it's now me that I will now spoil this red day that has been so good today that, gosh, maybe I should just agree. Anyway, I said, okay, let's do it. But I think I had even, because I'd been hearing something about safe words. So I think I even said, let's have a safe word, or, if it's too much, like, you're going to have to stop kind of thing. He was really so elated, so excited. He even jumped off the bed. He was like, hey, yes, don't worry, that he has head down. He'll stop and blah, blah, blah. Anyway. And I had also understood that with anal, you probably should use a lot of lube. So I got out my lube. I was like, okay, make sure you put plenty and all of that. So for me, I just felt like, okay, let's try it. Anyway, the guy attempts to make his entry, and immediately I was just like, I from jump, I already felt, I said, I don't think I can continue. And immediately he was just like, baby, now, you said that you were going to do this thing. I've been begging you since now that we're now here now, like, but now let's just do it now. Like, don't worry, I'll stop now. Blah, blah, blah. Let's just even try. I've not even yet gone inside, blah, blah, blah. I was just like, but you've not gone, but this thing I'm feeling is already painful. I don't think I can continue. Bottom line, he wore me down that, okay, let him just try. Let him just even go in once, I was like, okay. He attempted again. And I said, I can't do this thing. The next thing I heard him say, he was just like, baby, now you just have to relax. Now just relax. So of course I don't know how to relax by that area. So the best thing that I could think of was, okay, Kegels. I know when you do Kegels, you contract. So I was like, okay, let me try and do the opposite of Kegels. Like, I really didn't know how to help my body relax. So I just started to do what I felt were the opposite of Kegels. All I just know was I was on all fours, and this guy held me by the waist, and he plunged in. And I heard a sound come out of me that I had never heard before. And I was so taken aback. I said, what did I even say again? What did I even say again? said, this is painful. But because he had already primed me to the whole, you have to relax. Gee, I've been begging you since all these years, now we're already here. So I'm also the kind of person, for those of you who know me, I like to see things through. So I said, okay, since we're already here, let me try. Then he plunged again. The way I was sounding, I didn't like it. I sounded, to borrow the words from the podcast, I sounded like a wounded animal. I said, I can't continue. I can't continue. This guy held me by the waist, and as I was groaning the groans that were coming from my spirits, in fact, I think that's the best way to describe those groans, those sounds that were sounding, that were not sexual at all. I just heard this guy shouting over my groans. He started to say how much he loves me, started to say how grateful he is that I am letting him do this to me, that he's going to take care of me, he's going to love me for the rest of my life, that now that I've done this thing for him, he's, I'm going to see how much he's going to take care of me. I say again very explicitly, this thing is painful, I want to stop. And this guy just keeps shouting those things, those quote unquote declarations, if you will. And I felt my spirits just give up and just resign to what was happening to me. Because the thought that popped into my head was, this guy is going to finish. Actually, he's not going to stop. And so it's almost like I just detached from my body. I'm still very traumatized by the groans. The groans just kept on coming out as he was going. And he finished. And I collapsed in the position that I was in onto the bed. And I just heard him moving around, pumping himself up. He was like, yes. Now I'm so happy. Thank you for letting me do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to take care of you. I love you and blah, blah, blah. And I just stayed in position. Then he came to tap me that, are you okay? Like I should perk up or I should cheer up or something. And he was like, are you okay? And in my head, usually to survive an abusive relationship, you have to be very careful about the answers you give. But even in this moment, I couldn't even bring myself to lie and say, yes, I'm okay. I very clearly, I remember myself saying, I don't know. And he just kind of brushed it off and was just like, don't worry, it's because it was your first time. Don't worry, let me go get us some snacks. Let's watch a movie. Don't worry, let me go prepare something or whatever. So he shuffled out of the room, went to the kitchen to do whatever, spent a bit of time there. And I just remember still just laying in that very position he left me in. It felt like I couldn't come out of, it felt like I was trying to almost hold time in place of what just happened. My whole being, my whole body was still just processing what happened. He spent some time in the kitchen. Then I heard him come back into the room, and then he was just like, baby, now you're still, why are you still in this position now? Get up now. You're almost like I'm killing the vibe kind of thing that, he had brought the snacks, let's watch a movie. Don't worry, maybe, cause I really loved Harry Potter. So it's oh, let's watch Harry Potter or something like that. So he put it on the TV, and I just got some strength to just sit up on the bed, and the movie started playing, like my mind, it felt like I was just kind of spaced out. I actually remember like just kind of like shaking my head, almost like trying to just like get back to reality kind of thing. And that's just how we just watched the movie. And that was the end of that. Not a word was spoken about what just happened to me that night. And that was the end of that. In fact, what was so shocking to me was, as much as this guy wore me down for that and got what he wanted, I thought, oh, okay, at least now he'll leave me alone. He won't ask me for that for quite a long time. It shocked me completely that almost the very next sexual interaction, he was already requesting the anal again. That's how I knew. I said, no. So it took you years to get this one out of me. You saw how I reacted. You saw the way the thing shook me up to my core. And you will so quickly demand that from me again. Again, the many points in time, the timestamps in my relationship where distrust had been building in this relationship. So this was just part of it again. So for those of us who are warriors, by the time we are actually escaping these abusive relationships, we know that it's not just one thing. It is literally a compounding of the many different things that then snowballs into that one brave act that we have to do when we're launching out into our escape. So I'll say this too as well was one of the moments, so much so that by the time we're speaking about things on the podcast, even in my therapy sessions, by the time these things will just be pouring out of you, you can't even escape the things that your mind, your brain, your body had logged as a traumatic event along the way.